بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أما بعد. Welcome brothers and sisters to the Q&A panel, inshallah. We have preset questions in Al-Rahma, and if we have extra time, inshallah, we can open up to the audience in Al-Rahma and we can take their questions. We have 5 to 6 questions, inshallah, that we'll ask the Sheikh, and we will, inshallah, benefit from the Sheikh's answer. And this is Sheikh Hisham, Al-Zoubi, our Imam of Al-Rahma. Barakallahu fikum, inshallah. We will begin. So, Sheikh, the first question, inshallah, that we got from the Google Forms, from documents that we have, is that one of the people asked, Sheikh, what is the key steps in cleaning our heart?
وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. ويجب الله استقامة وبالتوفيق صلى الله سبحانه وتعالى أن استقامة Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the last messenger of Allah. Brothers, Jazakumullah khair. Sit down, brothers, in the back. Jazakumullah khair. Listen if you like or if you want to move. So, the steps to clean the heart. We know that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, when he started his da'wah, he started by faith. And we know that faith is a very general word. We say that you have to start by faith. But if we look actually and examine the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's teaching in the beginning for the Sahaba, we know that in a way we can compare ourselves with the Sahaba even before Islam, in the time of Jahiliyyah, because the Prophet ﷺ actually by his da'wah he cleaned their hearts from every type of sin. They used to sin in the Jahiliyyah and of course with the Sheikh. Inshallah, we hope that none of us has actually any type of shirk, especially the major shirk. But the sin itself. So first of all, the Prophet ﷺ prepared their hearts, and then afterward, you mentioned that actually in a previous discussion maybe, or maybe a lecture, that after this the Prophet ﷺ started to receive the law, the Islamic law, and that was a stage in Al-Medina. Most of it were in Al-Medina actually, or was in Al-Medina. But the first thing that the Prophet ﷺ started with is faith. That's the first step. What faith is, he started sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to teach them about Allah the Almighty. Allah's attributes. Who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us? What is our position in this world? And where are we going after we die? And he also spoke about the day of judgment, heaven and the hellfire, and the day of gathering, the day of rising, the day of Hisab, and all of these things which can make a link between the human being and between Allah the Almighty. Without having this essential faith, we cannot build actually any steps afterwards. So we have to have a relationship, first of all, with Allah the Almighty, and then afterward we should learn more and more. We mentioned actually in the Arabic setting, Arabic lecture if you like, or reminder, that the best thing for a person to clean his heart with is to be in good gatherings. To be in good gatherings. After he understands that he is a slave of Allah Azza wa Jal, and he is going to meet Allah Azza wa Jal sooner or later, after that he has to actually keep the level of his faith in a good position, or a good level somehow. So in order to do that and to increase his faith, he has to be in good gathering. And we mentioned, and we have to be practical when we speak about good gathering as people who live in the West, that most of the gathering Muslim countries, most of the gatherings are not actually gatherings that can support the Muslims or the Muslims belief. So the best gathering is the gathering in the mosque. And we understand that the Prophet ﷺ also, he actually migrated to Al-Medina. The first step he has done is that he built the mosque for the companions. We need a place. And the best place for a person to clean his heart is to come to the mosque and to be with good gatherings. And just imagine that when you are in the mosque, even if you do not do anything at all, but you have wudu, you have wudu, you made wudu and the ablution, and then you came to the mosque. By coming to the mosque, the malaika, alayhim salam, the angels will do dua for you, supplication for you. Oh Allah, forgive this man or this woman. And that's something can be, we have to think about it deeply. I mean, the malaika, we are not speaking about a person who makes dua. The malaika's dua, generally speaking, is accepted from Allah the Almighty. So being in the mosque, even without doing anything, can be a means for cleaning your heart. And then when you add to this gathering with people, for dhikrullah, for reading the Quran, for listening, for example, to a talk, a reminder, that will be one or two of the best thing that you have to do in order to keep your heart actually as clean as possible. I also mentioned in the Arabic talk that Darda, the wife of Abu Darda, they said Darda was a faqih. She was a lady of knowledge of Islamic law, fahm, understanding. That was actually the meaning of fiqh in the beginning, in the first generation. That fiqh is understanding, not only the Islamic law. And she was asked, radiallahu anha, what is the best thing for a person to keep his faith? She said that I never experienced something for keeping the faith in a good level better than being with good gathering with good people, especially in the mosque. When you come to the mosque, you join people, you see people. The malaika are in the mosque, the angels, we believe in that strongly, that the malaika come to the mosque. Actually, they come sometime from the streets. There's some type of malaika, they are walking and they are searching for gatherings for the sake of Allah. And when they actually hear about one of the gatherings, they call each other. It seems from the hadith that they are not in one place. So they call each other and they come to the mosque to join the believers. That is one of the answers, actually, I could say, for cleaning the heart, keeping the iman, keeping the faith, and increasing the faith, and so on, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykhana, for a very comprehensive answer, inshallah. And we will proceed quickly on to the second question, which is, what is your advice to young Muslims who want to pursue the road of seeking knowledge? Who want to pursue the road of seeking knowledge?
From the beginning, what is
what is your advice to young Muslims?
To young Muslims? Yeah, sorry, I've got that experience with the Liverpool accent. Yeah, that's Liverpool, Welsh accent. Like I'm not here. Yeah, I started dating actually. We said my son, and you say Liverpool, my son. Yeah, is it? Son. Now, for young who want to seek knowledge, what is my advice to them? وطلب الحديث في العشرين عند الزبيري أحب حين. They said that the best time to start searching for knowledge, according to Al-Zoubi, and that is also the saying وثلاثين لأهل الكوفة والعشر في البصرة كالمألوفة. Now the scholars themselves, they differ when actually the person can start searching for knowledge. There's different opinions. Some say that they have to start from 20, because the matter is not only memorizing. We want understanding is more than memorizing. And I mentioned actually maybe in other occasion that none, and I confirm that none of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ memorized the whole Quran. None at all. Aisha, Khadija, Salih, of course, she died in the beginning, but after the completion of the Quran, or after most of it was revealed, Salama, Zainab, Safiya, none of them. Actually, Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to ask her ghulam to recite the Quran for her, to lead the prayer, the salah, and her in order to listen more to the Quran. But who can be compared, not only from women, even from men, to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ regarding their understanding of deen and their righteousness? Actually, generally speaking, none. So the understanding is the most important, and that is what the Prophet ﷺ taught his own wives. The most important is to understand and to act as much as you can, not to memorize only, although that the memorization of the Quran is very important, but it's not more important than understanding and acting. This is why you find that the vast majority of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they were not from the Kuffar. MashaAllah, we have in Pakistan 7 million Hafiz. That's good. We have in Egypt 3 million Hafiz. Very, very good. But the more important is the understanding. So this is why they say from 20, because a person of 10 might not be able to understand properly. 10, although that Ahl al-Basra, they said he should start from 10. So some says from 30, some says from 40 actually. But let us speak about this opinion which says that it's 20, because 20 actually is somehow a time of understanding for generally a good understanding. I understand that a person of 10 years old or maybe 7 years old can understand, but we are speaking about good understanding of religion. That should be about 20, maybe 18, 19, and so on. So after 20, first of all, you have to choose what to study. Before that, this is the matter of if a person has a chance to memorize the Quran before 20, that's absolutely fantastic. Afterward, he has to study. Now, when you ask me about studying, straight away I think about myself, because in the Muslim lands today, I mean, we shouldn't dream. We shouldn't dream to find someone like a Shafi'i now. And we shouldn't dream to find one like Abu Hanifa, for example. Is that impossible? It is not impossible, but the environment doesn't support. In order to have someone like a Shafi'i and Abu Hanifa, you have to swim in knowledge. And to hear the rajul during the day and during the night. We mentioned Imam bin Hajar al-Asqalani, rahmatullahi alayh, hafiz of hadith. Stole all of the hadith, generally speaking, of the Prophet ﷺ in his heart. But actually he was addicted to hear the Prophet ﷺ's hadith. And we mentioned an example that when we are addicted to hear the English language, in time we find ourselves speaking. When we listen, regular to the Arabic language, in time we find ourselves speaking the language. And sometimes we are amazed of ourselves, from where these words come. I mean, I'm just speaking, I didn't remember myself memorizing these words. No, it's stored already. So the environment, generally speaking, doesn't support you to be like a Shafi'i, but you have to compete. Now, what you have to do is, in Jordan, 35 years ago, so we used to struggle from where to start. There's no sheikh. Even actually, some sheikh, they are banned, actually. They are not allowed to speak about anything. And they are formal sheikhs. Formal sheikhs, formal sheikh. By the end, he's formal. His fatwa is formal. His speech is formal. His imamah is formal. And difficult to have knowledge of some such people, although that amongst them there are good people, but generally speaking. And then we started going to some brothers who actually had knowledge at that time, and we started taking from them step by step. Now, the matter now is better, alhamdulillah, better than 35 years ago. You find a lot of seekers of knowledge, some type, you might say scholars somehow, although that the word scholar is is a pie. It needs actually an explanation, a long explanation to say what the scholar in Islam is. Because the scholar in Islam is not a person who has a certificate or professor or someone. There is a definition, a long definition of what the scholar in Islam, the Islamic scholar is. You might find some scholars actually to take from them. If you cannot do so, you can't. I mean, you didn't find, you tried and you didn't find any person to take your knowledge, to take the knowledge from. What you have to do, then again, Allah the Almighty didn't allow people to be astray. In other words, that He implanted in every place in the world a person, at least, if he is not a scholar, he can guide you where to go. So if you find this person who can guide you where to go, what type of books should I study? What type of books should I avoid, for example? What type of knowledge should I start with? Then you have to take the guidance from that person. And then you start. Can you start with reading? I mean, if there is no something other than reading, then nothing will be better than reading. Yes, you can start with reading some books. You know, that will be after the guidance of some person who can give you some guidance regarding which books that you should start with. So I can say that, first of all, seek, if you find a scholar or a seeker of knowledge, that's better. A seeker of knowledge who can guide you, who can actually teach you Islam as much as he can, then take the matter as strong as possible. If he is not able to, or if you don't find, then seek the guidance. Which books should you have? I think in the West, generally speaking, every Muslim should have a library. A book of tafsir, we know, all Muslims, they know that one of the most authentic tafsir which are translated, because there are authentic tafsir which are not translated, which are translated, tafsir Ibn Kathir, it's translated into 10 volumes. It should be in your library. Riyadh al-Salihin, for example, a book of fiqh, for example. Choose a book of aqidah, for example, without going deep, because actually studying the aqidah itself in detail, it needs to be under a person of knowledge. So start with imams or sheikhs or the brothers who can guide you. If you cannot find, read. Of course, the best thing is to have a sheikh or imam. If you can't find, don't be deceived by some statements of saying that don't take your knowledge from the books. No, take it from the books. Allah Azza wa Jalla said in the Quran that He is allama bil qalam. He taught by pen. Allama He taught man what he knew not. In other words, that Allah Azza wa Jalla taught the human being by the pen itself, by writing and by reading and so on. Although that this is the second best, but if you couldn't find better than it, then you have to start with it. Books, library that you have in your house, and then start step by step. Another thing which is very important, shall we conclude this? I mean, every person has a taste of something. Some people, they don't like fiqh. When you speak about Islamic law, they don't want to listen about Islamic law. Fiqh and Sharia, and they don't hate it, but it's okay for them. Some people, they like history, all right? This is also another thing regarding the imams or the seekers of knowledge when they examine their students. Some people, they might be good with the hadith. They like the ilm al-hadith. Then guide them to the best book of hadith. Some of them, they like fiqh. Some of them, they like tafsir. And that used to happen during the times of the scholars before. That an example of that, Ibn Qudamah, Al-Maqdisi, and another person, his cousin or his relative. Allahumma salli ala Abu Muhammad Ibn Qudamah Al-Maqdisi wa Ibn Abd al-Hadi. Now, these two actually, one of them chose fiqh, which is Ibn Qudamah, and the other one chose hadith. Can you combine? No, you can't. You can't combine to be a leader in both. You can't. In this time, no. Even in the time of Ibn Abd al-Hadi and al-Bari, most of the scholars, they were actually leaders in one knowledge, and they have participation in other knowledge. So specify yourself what knowledge you want to study. You like tafsir, go with the tafsir. You like seerah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, study the seerah. You like the hadith, study the hadith, and then carry on, inshallah. Allah
another comprehensive answer. The third question is, especially we have a lot of youth around us, and one of the biggest problems.
Are you not youth yourself?
I hope so. The question is, how can one become close to the Quran in a world full of music?
How can a person become close to the Quran in a world full of music? All right. If you mean that he is in a town and there is music and he wants to read Quran, he should read Quran anyway. Do you know that Imam Al-Qurtubi, rahimahullah, in his tafsir, he said the person shouldn't read Quran in the street. The Quran is much higher to be read in the street. I mean, some people, they just want to review the Quran. They just want to, to recall actually hifz. And when they walk to the mosque, they just start, reading some of the ayahs, for example. According to this scholar, which is not agreed upon opinion anyway, but according to this scholar, that you shouldn't, because the street is not for Quran. Quran has its place, its position, its way of reading, its way of sitting, and so on. So the Quran is much higher than being actually read in the street. Although that this is not the opinion of the majority of the scholars. You can read the Quran, you can read the Quran in the street as long as there is no music, no voices that can disturb the Quran, Quranic reading and so on. You can read the Quran. There's no problem. Now, if you mean reading the Quran along with the music, there's no way. I mean, it's haram. If a person starts reading the Quran while he's listening to the music or hearing the music that will be against the Quran. That will be haram actually, because the Quran, the music is at least the music is hateful. At least, the vast majority of the scholars of Islam, they say the music is haram. Some of the scholars, they say this is ijma'. Like all of the people, they actually agree that the music is haram. But there is no ijma'. That's the facts. And we speak about a person like Ibn Hazm al-Bahri, he said that music is okay as long as you don't combine the music with wine, ladies, and bad speech and so on. But again, the authentic ahadith, the most authentic ahadith regarding the music, it actually they show that the music is haram. And actually a person who become actually addicted to the music, then he will be away from the Quran. And Imam al-Qayyim, rahmatullahi alayhi, says, in his Nuniyya, that's poetry, about 6,000 lines, poetry in Aqidah Ashi and other things regarding the hearts and other things. He said, حب الكتاب وحب ألحان الغنى في قلب عبد ليس يجتمعان. حب الكتاب وحب ألحان الغنى في قلب عبد ليس يجتمعان. He said, the love of the kitab, the book of Allah, and the love of the music, they do not gather in one heart. They do not. If you love the music, then the Quran will go away. If you love the Quran, then the music will go away. Speaking about love, I mean, all the time and so on. So a person shouldn't actually read the Quran when there is music. How can a person have a link with the Quran, while he lives in a place which has a lot of music, like, the music now is everywhere. Even in Mecca you find music. I mean, just separate yourself from that place, not the whole city itself, the place itself, the place of music, and just, try to read the Quran in your house, in your car, for example, away from the music, in the mosque itself, and that would be enough, inshallah. I mean, I hope that I understood the question. I hope that I understood that the question is about reading the Quran with the music. So, try to say that, try to avoid the music. I myself myself. I was a musician from when I was 7 years old until 20. And a musician with the Arabic, if you know the Arabic oud, they call it oud. You know the Arabic guitar. You know the And if you want to ask someone about the effects of the music on the brain and the soul, ask me. Without exaggeration and with humbleness, they say. Ask me about that. And believe me, it could cause a person to be like a person who is drunk. And he will forget everything around him. And then when I started reading the Quran afterward, it didn't work with me. It didn't. You have to choose Quran or the oud, or the music, the guitar, and all the other things. It has a real effect on the heart and can take you away from not only the deen, from even your responsibilities. But again, as long as there's some scholars, they said, it's allowed sometime, they said, like, it's mubah. It is mubah sometime, as long as it doesn't contain haram, haram like wine, and so we can't say that a person who listens to the music is passive. We can't say that, Islamically. We say that he commits a sin, but if he actually, if he said, for example, I follow a saying of a scholar with his proof, we might actually find an excuse for him somehow, as long as he doesn't engage all of his life in the music. Or some people, they cannot live without the music. So my advice to myself and to you, try to avoid the music as much as you can. And mashallah, we have now the effects. What's it called? The effects, some in the multi-track, something like this, multi-effects, processors and things like that. Even the voice of the human being, they can do some reverb, some delay, and become very beautiful. And just try to avoid the music as much as you can.
And inshallah, we have a question on fiqh. And the question is, what is the ruling on using weak ahadith to extract legal rulings?
What is the ruling of using the weak ahadith in producing legal fatwas? I think that's the ruling. First of all, when we say weak ahadith, what do we mean by weak ahadith? Because there is how many types? وعده البستي فيما أوعى ل49 نوعا. The hadith al-da'ifa, al-Imam al-Busti ibn Hibban rahmatullahi alayhi, sahib al-sahih, he classified the da'if hadith, da'if being weak. The weak hadith, he classified them into 49 into 49 types. 49 types of hadith da'if. Can you imagine that? And he mentioned them by one. Some of the scholars, I think Imam al-Sakhawi or other, he said actually some scholars, they read 100 type of the ahadith da'if. So which type you are speaking about? If you speak about, you're supposed to be the question about the weak hadith, which is not very weak, which is not old, which is not fabricated. Fabricated is not hadith, but the scholars, they call the fabricated hadith because the person who uttered it, who mentioned it, he said it's hadith, although it's not hadith. Because it's a lie. The fabricated, you can't use it at all. That's one thing. The only way to use the fabricated Muhammad, one of the 4 scholars of fiqh, and he's known as Imam al-Sunnah, rahimahullah. He has a book called Al-Musnad, more than, if I realize right, more than 28,000 hadith, the collection now. Now there is thousands, not one, thousands of hadith which are weak. But they are not very weak. Now the weakness can be because the person is a person who is actually labeled as muttaham. I mean, they said he might say something lied. He might. He didn't. We are not sure that he lied, but he might. Now we keep this away because there is a strong criticism of it. Now another weak hadith, for example, is that all, you know, the hadith in Islam, we read the hadith from, for example, I read the hadith from Al-Rahma and the other, and I talked to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and that's, we call this the chain of men or narrators. Now, all of the narrators, they are all authentic. But Abdul-Rahman is a righteous person. He's a good person, devoted person. The only problem that he has some weakness, not weak, some weakness in his memory. And because we want to protect the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we say that this hadith is daif. Not very weak, but it's daif. Now, can we use such hadith, which many of thousands of hadith of Muslim Imam Ahmad from this type, can we use it in the Islamic law? The majority, some people, they say no at all, and they think that, you know, that's an opinion that agreed upon and no one differ with it. No, the matter is not that. There is two opinions in Islam regarding the weak hadith from this type. Hadith, daif, weak hadith, but is not very weak. First of all, we have to understand that weak hadith doesn't mean that the Prophet ﷺ didn't say it. We say that this hadith is weak. We don't say that the Prophet didn't say that. I hear some brothers, even some sheikhs, even YouTubers, when he said hadith da'if, the Prophet didn't say it. Don't say that. Don't say that. Hadith da'if means there is a narrator who has something in his memory, especially when we speak about life weakness. Now, we don't say that the Prophet didn't say it, and we don't say the Prophet said it. We said this hadith da'if. That's it. The hadith which the Prophet ﷺ didn't say is the fabricated one. We are sure about that. The da'if, no. This is why there's some mixing between some, even people belong to the hadith, they actually, their attributes with the hadith da'if is like their attributes with the hadith, with the fabricated hadith. They don't come near to any of the da'if hadith at all. They deal with the da'if as they deal with the fabricated, which is, as I called it before, which is the bid'ah of the asr. This is the innovation of the asr. Because all of the scholars, since the time of As-Salaf As-Salih, the three generations, till our time, till the last 100 years, they used to actually to deal with the hadith al-da'if and not to make it practically like the fabricated hadith. They came to the subject itself. Can we use the hadith da'if in Islamic law? Two opinions. The majority of the scholars, they said no way. The majority of the scholars, they said no way, because, you know, we doubt that this hadith, you know, might not be said by the Prophet ﷺ. Now there is two opinions of Imam Ahmad himself, two opinions. In one opinion he said we can use the hadith, the weak hadith in the Islamic law, verdict, fatwa. Another opinion of Imam Ahmad, he said no. Which is in the madhab? Which is in the madhab of Imam Ahmad most authentic or most likely to be said by Ahmad? The one, the first. In other words, that according to Imam Ahmad, most likely he said the first opinion, that the hadith da'if, which is not very weak, can be used in the Islamic law. Another scholar is Abu Dawood. Abu Dawood is one of the people of the Sunnah. You know, we have 6 sources of Islam: Bukhari and Muslim, the most authentic hadith, As-Sahihan, the 2 Sahih, and then the 4 Sunnahs. And in order, with regard to their level of Islam, we have Al-Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, At-Tirmidhi, after Abu Dawood, An-Nasa'i, Ibn Majah the last. That's depending upon their level and their authenticity and their benefits. Now, these Sunan Arba'a, amongst them there Abu Dawood, number 3. Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood. Abu Dawood, he also has this opinion of Imam Ahmad. The weak ahadith can be used in the Islamic law. And Ibn Manda, one of the scholars of hadith. So some of the scholars, they said we can use it. But when we say that they can use it in Islamic law, not entirely. For example, we cannot use them in the hudud. in the legal punishment. If we have hadith regarding legal punishment, which is da'if, we don't use it. If we have hadith regarding a movement in the prayer, this is still Islamic law. Something in the wudu is still Islamic law and fiqh. Something in the hajj, that's still Islamic law, we use it according to them. But again, according to most of the scholars, that no, we should avoid the weak hadith. This matter is very critical. I mean, it's very complicated for people understand it in deep unless they study the knowledge itself. Because by the end, when the Imam says on the member hadith, for example, da'if, and he said the Prophet ﷺ said and so, and this hadith is da'if. The first impression of the people that, oh, this hadith is not good, da'if is not good, weak is not good. No, this is istilah. This is something in the hadith term. He said da'if, which means that there is some doubt about it. We can't say the Prophet didn't say it for sure. We can't say the Prophet ﷺ did say it for sure. And there is a type of hadith which is nearer to the Hasan. Some of the scholars they call it Al-Maqbul. And many of the hadith of Imam Ahmad's book are from this type. Either da'if, that is, has some weakness, and some of them they are nearer to the Hasan. Because the classification of the da'if is very, very sensitive. So we return to the scholars, especially when I speak about the scholars, I speak about the previous scholars, the scholars whom we know, especially these 6 people, Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, and others. Because nowadays, I see some people, some brothers, started actually learning knowledge, which is very good, alhamdulillah, we like it. But the problem is that we don't want them to rush and to start seeing themselves like a Tirmidhi and a Bukhari. They said that Tirmidhi is, there's a saying about Imam al-Tirmidhi, one of the books, of the people of the books, the 6 sources of Islam, that he is mutasahil. You know, he actually, when he said, for example, when he said that this hadith is authentic, he doesn't have a strong condition. And they think, some people, that means that don't take from it, which is not, this saying that never take from Tirmidhi because he is mutasahil, something never been uttered by any scholar before. He said mutasahil. What does it mean by mutasahil? It doesn't mean that like Al-Hakim, like others who came after. No. It means that when you compare it to Al-Bukhari, he's mutasahil because Al-Bukhari has strong conditions. He has to meet the person, to heal the person, even stronger than Muslim himself. So when you compare At-Tirmidhi to Al-Bukhari, yes, there is conditions are less in the strength than Al-Bukhari. We take from these sources, and then we take from the Huffaz. The Huffaz is a person who memorized generally the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Why I say memorize, the person of memorization, Huffaz? Why? Because this is the sunnah of the hadith. Since the hadith started to be classified as ilm, as knowledge, you will never see any person in the Islamic history who used to say this hadith da'if or sahih or hasan except if he was from the Huffaz. Why? We have books, man. We have internet. Yeah, Dr. Hisham, you just put no, because you need to know the Quran. The Quran is something that you already stored in your memory, and you need to know because sometimes the hadith comes in the meaning in another riwayah, for example. And if you are hafiz, you already have it in your mind. But if you want to search for it, you will never find it because the letters or the words or the sentences is different, although that the meaning is same. So the person who is hafiz, he actually has the means in his head, and he can actually judge the hadith. That doesn't mean, however, that we belittle the scholars who participated in the hadith. We say that if their judgments match some of the scholars, previous scholars, we said that that's fine. Otherwise, we said isti'nas. We cannot say that for sure that it's authentic on an authentic base on the previous generation's judgments.
Inshallah, what we can do now is we can open it up to the audience if you have questions, appropriate questions, inshallah. So anyone with questions, inshallah.
We ask Allah to make this gathering from the morning till the evening, till now, inshallah, a witness, inshallah, for us, for you, and for us in the day of judgment, especially those who came from far away in order to participate in this meeting. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, nothing will be lost, inshallah, with Allah the Almighty. To have any participation, not necessary questions, or sayings, or correction. Bismillah.
Is it okay to play good and in the background or things of like the constitution?
Can you say it again one more time?
Play the Quran in the background of what?
No, just in general, and your audience that concentrate on the Quran, like doing other stuff, maybe play it in your room or in the house while doing chores or something.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a plane, you're like listening to it. While, for example, you are doing something, it depends upon if you are happy, for example, and you want to listen and to try to, to repeat or to hear it more and more. There is exception in this case, because there is exception for a case which is more serious than that. You know, the haid, the woman, the lady, she has a period, she is not supposed to read the Quran at all, not to touch it, and not to read it. And that is the opinion of four madhabs, and the majority of the scholars. And there's a hadith which is authentic, some say that's not authentic, it's authentic according to the previous scholars. Now, if she is a woman who memorizes the Quran, the whole Quran, and she has period, you know, ladies' period, and she has a long period. Some ladies can reach 17 days. 17 days, some days, some 10, some, most of them 6 to 7. But if she feels that she's going to lose the Quran, scholars, they said, some of the scholars, they said she's allowed actually to read even from the Quran, and it's better if she can wear anything in order to avoid touching the Quran straight away. In this case, if you are just listening in order, for example, either to affirm your memorization or to have the tone of the Quran, the tajweed, because the tajweed doesn't come by learning, nur al-sakina, no, it comes by listening. The more you listen to the Quran, the more you have the tajweed. So if you do this, play that, I just try to avoid the word play, turn on. The Quran, for example, if you turn on the Quran in TV or whatever, then yes, for a purpose, for a good purpose and so on. But if you just turn it on in order to, or you think that that's barakah, and you just start speaking with some of your children, for example, brothers, sisters, and laughing and so on, no, avoid that, because that will be, again, you mentioned that the Quran is much higher than anything in the world. It should be respected, but if there's a good purpose, yes, you can hear it. For example, some brothers, I know that they don't sleep except while hearing the Quran. No, there's no problem with that, because that's not, I think that can affect the Quran itself, or do anything better than the Quran itself. Yeah. If you mean, when you say background, because some people, I see them, we don't have, alhamdulillah, any Quran background. They have YouTubers, and they put the Quran behind them, some ayats. For example, full page, with the verses, and it's behind them. That's a very bad thing. I don't say it's haram. I can't say it's haram, but I say at least it's very bad. Because you shouldn't put the Quran behind you, first of all. Imagine if we say, for example, you put one ayah above his head to show to the people, وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Yeah, that's a respectful way. But to put the whole, the whole page behind you, and then no one knows actually what's behind you, but just to show that there's Quran behind you, try to avoid that as much as
جزاك الله خير. شيخ
تفضل.
جزاك الله خير. انطلاقا من احترام العلماء وتقديرهم، نريد منك بعض النصائح بخصوص العنوان الكتاب المشهور رفع الملام عن الأئمة الأعلام. بالإنجليزي
إن شاء الله.
بس ممكن الترجمة لهم.
Yeah, إن شاء الله. The brother asked about there is a book written by Ibn Taymiyyah. I think first of all to say something about Ibn Taymiyyah. Islam is not Ibn Taymiyyah. Do you agree? Islam is not Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah from Islam, is it? It's one of the Muslims. Because some people, they say that Ibn Taymiyyah said something, that's it, that's the Islam. No. Yeah, mistakes. Like others. But he is a Muslim scholar. That's number one. Number two, that it's good when you mention the scholar, or when you speak about knowledge itself, and deal, not to stick to one scholar. Speak about Ibn Taymiyyah, speak about Al-Zoubi, speak about Al-Ghazali, speak about Zamalkani, speak about Al-Kathir, from different madhab. Because nowadays we have a problem, unfortunately, from people who try to make division between Muslims. You know, when you speak about some scholar, they say, look, he speaks about this scholar and he doesn't like the other scholar. No, we have loyalty to all of the scholars of Islam, all of them, especially the previous one again, the one who already did and who participated in the debate. And if any one of them had a mistake, even a serious mistake, so we find an excuse for him, as long as he belonged to the Book of Allah and to the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Now, Raf' al-Malam, Ibn Taymiyyah has a book, again, because he refers to Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayhi. The book is Raf' al-Malam an al-A'imma al-A'lam. And if to say to you, Al-Imam al-Subki rahimahullah, he's one of the Shafi'is, he also spoke about this matter, speaking about the previous scholars. He spoke about some people, he spoke about Abu Hanifa and others, you know. And then he put some rules regarding the previous scholars. For example, now Ibn Hazm was a very sharp person. He spoke against Abu Hanifa. Now a person who just started, studying, he read Ibn Hazm and he see Ibn Hazm's words are very tough. And then he start the person who just started actually reading and learning, he actually wants to apply Ibn Hazm upon himself. So, and he started speaking against Abu Hanifa. Brother, you are not Ibn Hazm. Ibn Hazm is a mujtahid. In other words, even if he had a serious mistake, generally speaking, he's a Muslim. He has a lot of hasanat and participation in Islam. What do you have right now? Nothing. You just started playing properly. So it's different. Don't apply this. And the other thing is that kalam al-aqam. When you have two scholars in one time, sometimes, because the scholars again are not malaika, not angels, sometimes they might speak about each other. We avoid that. We in the later generations, we avoid that. We do not put ourselves between them. And we say, rahimahullah, rahimahullah. Yes, we should adopt one of the opinions, but we shouldn't say what the scholar said against the other scholar. We avoid that because this sometimes can come because of competition somehow. Now, Raf' al-Malam an al-A'immat al-A'lam was actually authored because of this purpose, to find an excuse to the scholars who are well known in Islam and their participation in khidmat al-Islam. Certainly, Islam is well known, like al-A'imma al-Arba'a, Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, Ahmad. Like the previous scholars, for example, like Mujahid, for example, Qatada, Ikrima, students of Ibn Abbas, so find an excuse for them. Why? If we put some reasons why we should find excuses for them, many of them are written actually in detail in that book, Raf' al-Malam. The point that the brother actually, I think he was pointing to is that we, as Muslims in our generation, we should respect all the scholars of Islam. as long as they are scholars, because again, the matter of scholar definition needs to be explained actually in detail. But we know that, for example, Al-Shafi'i was a scholar. We know An-Nawawi was a scholar. We know Ibn Hajar was a scholar. We know Ibn Qayyim was a scholar. We know that. We know that, and by their application of knowledge can know that they are scholars, heavy scholars. So we love them all for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla. We do not engage in some problems happen between them. Some mushahada, they call it, because it's not our business. Their matter is to Allah Azza wa Jalla. We adopt a way of knowledge, a way of creed, and so on, but that doesn't mean that we are against other scholars who follow the Quran and the Sunnah in general, and they have some serious mistakes. Why I say Kitab and Sunnah? I'll give an example. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahmatullahi alayhi, is a scholar. I don't want to mention, to which creed he belongs. Maybe some of you know, but the idea is that he has some mistakes. All the scholars, they have some mistakes. Ibn Hajar, similar to them. But he has some mistakes in matters of aqidah. But Ibn Hajar was following the book of Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, and based on that, he actually deducted the opinion. Now that's different from a person who said the mind is the first and the Quran and the Sunnah is only. You shouldn't return to the Quran and the Sunnah before the aql. From my mind. What my mind says, yes, that should be the opinion. Even if it's against the Quran and the obvious Quran and the obvious Sunnah. That's different from the person who follows the Quran and the Sunnah. Very, very detailed subject, to be honest, and very, very sensitive subject. We have to love all of the scholars of Islam for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla, respect them, and to mention their goodness, and actually to avoid mentioning anything bad that happened between them. As we speak about the companions, just imagine Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib and Talha bin Ubaydillah. They had different khusuma. And a person from our time, taxi driver, and with all respect to this driver, taxi driver, and then he came between them and he said, "You fighting with each other? You are right, Ali. This is wrong." Both of them will say to him, "Look, that doesn't fit you. We're much higher than you. Sahaba. Leave this matter to the Sahaba. Again, leave the matter of the ulama for the ulama themselves, and respect all of the scholars of Islam, and we love them for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla. We pray for them. We ask Allah Azza to forgive all our sins, first of all, and also the previous generations' sins.
Barakallahu feekum, ikhwani. Inshallah, we will move on to the discussion panel, inshallah.
The youth now?
Yeah, the youth, inshallah. So we'll move on to the discussion panel. Stay tuned, inshallah, for the discussion.